event to go to tonight, you may have to wear some dress shoes. If you are playing on one of the pro football teams today this afternoon, on the field, you'll probably need to wear cleats. So you need special shoes to get the job done. Now, some of the shoes I feel like that we've been wearing as a culture, not necessarily as a church, the kind of shoes we've been wearing, to use that as an analogy, would be flip-flops. That's what we've been wearing as a culture, primarily, is our flip-flops. And flip-flops are good, I guess, if you have a day at the spa, or maybe you want to go to the beach or the pool or something, you wear your flip-flops. But flip-flops are not the shoes I would choose to engage in any type of warfare like we're experiencing today. So it's interesting, over the past several weeks, as you know, all of our 6 campuses have been talking about wokeism and neo-Marxism, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who don't go to Second, don't go to our church. They go, man, I'm so glad your church is speaking out and talking about these issues because no one really is. And it's not, and there are other people, other churches speaking out, but by and large, a lot of people aren't. They're wearing flip-flops, and they're sliding all around in our culture. So we've been looking at the past several weeks that when we're engaged in a type of warfare, whether you're talking about the things that are happening right now, not just in our country, but in Western civilization, or in your own personal life, when we're engaging in warfare, spiritual warfare, then we have to be prepared and we have to be equipped. And the book of Ephesians will equip us in all types of warfare and battles in our lives. That's what I discovered and many of you discovered as well. So open your Bibles if you have to the book of Ephesians, chapter number 6, verse 10. Says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you will be able to stand your ground. After you've done everything to stand firm then, with a belt of truth buckled around your waist, with a breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet, there you go, your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. Did you notice that? You don't have to be a theologian to see that. Not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times, but the bonus 4th time, he tells us in the midst of battle, we've got to be able to stand. We've got to stand. We can't cower, we can't compromise, we can't wimp out, we can't slink out, we can't flip-flop. We, as followers of Christ and people who are engaged in life, engaged in our culture, have to take a stand. And to stand, we need to have some special shoes that I'm going to talk about in just a few moments. But right now, I want to go back to the acrostic for stand. Many people ask me, or someone asked me this week, hey, I didn't get the ND part in the acrostics because we haven't looked at the ND yet. But let's look at the S. The S in stand is for strength. Strength. Stand in God's mighty power. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The T is for truth. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. A is for answers. We've got to be prepared to give answers to people that are asking about the hope that's within us. And the N is network. Network. We need a network, I believe, in that cultural space, a network of like-minded people who are going to stand. Now, we're like-minded on areas of freedom of speech and freedom of religion. We may disagree politically. We may be a Democrat. We may be a Republican. We may be a Libertarian. We may be a Christian. We may be an atheist. But we come together and we're like-minded in the fact that within the Western civilization, we cherish freedom. So how can we maximize the freedom for the maximum number of people in our culture? We've got to find people who will stand in the cultural space, I believe, and push back against wokeism, against cultural and neo-Marxism. We need to find people who value critical thinking over critical theory, who value MLK over CRT, who value historical progress over historical regress, who value truth over relativism, facts over feelings, biological reality over psychological fantasy, forgiving over canceling, order over chaos, equality over equity, free speech over hate speech, and responsibility over victimization. Those are the kinds of, you can clap for that. Those are the kind of people, again, on different sides of the religious, philosophical, political aisle that I want to unite with in this particular time in our nation's history and really in the history of Western civilization. Now, that's within the cultural space. Within the church space, where a lot of us live and have our sense of being and meaning, God calls us to a higher plane. He says that we are a citizen, not so much of this world, we're not a citizen so much of the United States of America, but we are citizens by his grace of heaven. We're king's kids. He is our ultimate allegiance. He is our king. He is our God. He is our politic, if you would. He rules and reigns forever. So that's our most important loyalty always is to him. Now in that, we have to fight. We have to battle. We have spiritual warfare on a macro level. We have it on a micro level. We have it in our culture. We also have it in our personal lives. And if we're going to battle and do battle in this spiritual warfare, then we've got to put on that armor of God. That's where we get our strength. It's not in our own strength, but it is putting on this armor of God, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, and we need to put on these special shoes. We don't need Gucci loafers, but if you have them, that's great. We need, we're size 10 by the way, 9.5. So we need gospel cleats. We need gospel cleats. You see, Paul was writing this letter to the Ephesians when he was in prison. He is looking and glancing at a Roman soldier. He's noticing the armor this mighty warrior has from head to toe. So now he looks at his feet and sees that his feet have these special cleats, these Roman sandals with covering over the top and leather that straps around and these spikes on the bottom. And that would allow the soldier in the midst of battle to stand there when they need to stand, to hold their ground when they need to hold their ground. Also, these cleats would allow them to move. It gave them mobility and they can move forward with power because they would dig these cleats into the ground and allow them to have that sense of stability that would propel them forward in battle. Paul uses these cleats as an analogy for you and me. These are gospel cleats. These are the gospel of peace. And we have to put on this gospel of peace in all readiness. What does that look like? 3 ways. The gospel, and these gospel cleats, if you will, help us and help you in a sense of benefits. First of all, the gospel cleats, I think the gospel gives you reliability. Reliability. We live in a world and time where trust levels are really low, where it's hard to rely on people. It's hard to rely on authority structures. It's hard to rely sometimes on technology. Have you tried unplugging it? Yes, I have. It's hard to find someone or something to rely on. The gospel says that we can rely on God, on his goodness and his faithfulness. As Kiara was singing earlier, all my life you have been faithful to me. So the good news of the gospel of peace gives us the reality that God is reliable. When everything else seems unreliable, when there's so much uncertainty in our world, God is reliable. We can count on God and count on his faithfulness. I need a chair. Thank you. This is Ben Flanagan, by the way. He's a pastor on our staff. Also, air traffic control. That's why he's wearing the headset. Here's the chair, right? I love this chair. I praise this chair. This chair is so wonderful. My grandmother always talked to me about the chair and how important the chair is in my life. I love this chair. Praise be, hallelujah, to this wonderful, mighty, powerful, faithful chair. I love this chair. I read books about this chair every single day. This book tells me how great this chair is, and I believe in this chair. I really do believe in this chair. I trust in this chair. I believe that this chair is more reliable than anything in the world. It's more important than money. It's more important than politics. This chair is everything to me. Do I really believe and rely on that chair? Some of you say, well, maybe you do and maybe you don't. There's only one way to find out if I really believe and rely and trust in the chair. Right? It's to sit down in it. It's to put my full weight on this chair. Now, what's holding me up? Is it my belief in my faith and my enthusiasm and the fact that I've read a lot about the chair? No, what's holding me up when I trust and rely is the faithfulness of the chair itself. The gospel assures us that God is faithful. God is reliable. Even when we are faithless and unreliable, God is reliable. But I've got to put my full weight upon him. I've got to trust him. And many times it's difficult to trust God in the midst of warfare, in the midst of darkness. And someone said this to me years ago. They said, Ben, listen, don't doubt in the dark what you believed in the light. Don't doubt in the dark what you believed in the light. In the light we know that God is faithful. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The gospel, these gospel cleats teach us, show us that God is faithful. He is reliable. Also, the gospel gives you not just a sense of reliability, but it gives you a sense of stability. Stability. We live in unprecedented times. We live in unstable times. We live in uncertain times. We live in slippery times. I can remember years ago, our church took a mission trip to a place called Tuzamapan. Tuzamapan is a small town located in the jungle-like mountains of Puebla. Have you ever been to the state of Puebla? Anybody ever been to Puebla in here? Yes, it's just people in Puebla. So we flew into the city of Puebla. Then we had to drive 5 hours in a bus up to this place called Tuzamapan. There were people in Tuzamapan that didn't speak Spanish. They just spoke Totonac, their native tongue. So we're up here, I remember there with a group of people and some other friends and brothers and sisters from Mexico, and we're trying to go through this jungle path. I think it used to be a creek, and we're just falling and slipping because we just can't get our footing. We can't make our way through the path. It's because we're wearing the wrong kinds of what? Shoes. And without the right kind of shoes, we're not stable. We're not stable. This gospel of peace, this good news about what God has done for us, gives us a sense of stability in an unstable world. God doesn't change. We can fully and totally rely and trust in him when we feel things are getting shaky and unstable. And there are times in our life when we are just reaching and trying and asking God, God, help me to find that stability in you. Also, the gospel gives us mobility. It gives us mobility in our life. Does that make sense? In other words, so when you have these cleats on, these gospel cleats, these cleats allow us to get a grip on the ground, the terrain we're in, that allows us to move forward. It allows us to move forward. Because many times in our life, we get in a place where we feel like we are stuck. We are immobile. We are in the ditch. We are in a quagmire. And we're wondering, how do I get out? And our mind is filled with regret. We say, golly, this has happened. It's so horrific and so bad. There's no way I can get out of this ditch. And then we start thinking about the future. And the future freaks us out and it fills our hearts and minds with anxiety. What can we do? Then we start thinking about the present and we just feel totally immobile. This gospel of peace, when it gets into our hearts and minds, gives us that ability to move forward. We realize, wait a minute, God is taking care of my past. When I confess my mistakes, my sins to him, he's taking care of that. God has also given me his strength and his power by his spirit in my life right now. He is with me in the present. Also, I know that God is going to be with me in the future. And I'm going to say, God, I want to give you this quagmire. I want to give you this mess. And God, give me that power to take the next step forward, to dig in with these cleats, that I can move forward because I know that you are in the redemption business. So as we sing in the beach retreats, something beautiful, something good, all my confusion he understood, and eventually God, by his grace, by his spirit, can make something beautiful out of our life. The gospel gives us this ability to move forward. I love a quote by Kierkegaard that I've used many times. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. God's gospel, his grace, his forgiveness, his ability to redeem the years the locusts have eaten allows us to move forward with hope and confidence in him. That's why Paul can write, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation, restoration to everyone who believes and trusts in him. This gospel, these gospel shoes give us the ability to stand when we need to stand. They give us the ability to move out, to be mobile when we need to be mobile. Because you see, we need to use psychological language here, if you would, we need to both internalize the gospel of peace. I receive this peace that he gives to me through Christ. I receive this. I receive the reliability of God. I trust in him. I receive his stability that he gives me. And I know that I'm mobile now. I can move forward. So I receive it. And then also I externalize it by giving it away, by telling other people, hey, this is what God's done in my life. This is how God has changed my life. This is how God has brought hope into my life. This is how God has restored my life. This is how God has put me on a new path. And we tell our stories. And we share this good news about what God has done in our life. Back in the day, we call that giving a testimony or testifying. Can anyone here testify? People would stand up. Now I want to testify to the goodness of God. I want to testify to his gospel in my life. And we share stories. So this gospel, these gospel cleats, this gospel of peace is something that we internalize, we receive, and something we externalize, and we share it with others. How beautiful are the feet of those that bring good news. Good news. How many of you here know what the Spanish word listo? I mean, yeah, we have people here who know what listo means. Listen, listo, my understanding, my gringo understanding, is that Listo. And listen, I want to, yo quiero practicar español porque en el cielo todos hablan español. En el futuro yo quiero hablar con Maria, Pablo. Yeah, anyway. So listo is a really cool word. I think it really fits this passage here. It really fits these gospel cleats. Because it says that when our feet are fitted with this piece of the armor, these gospel cleats, that we were filled with readiness. And the word listo means smart and ready at the same time, my understanding. So when I have these gospel shoes on, and I've internalized the gospel, I'm sharing the gospel, man, I am both smart and ready. I am listo, right? I'm listo. Usually I'm pretty tonto, but with the gospel, that means stupid, I can be smart and ready. You can't go to war, you can't do spiritual battle without the proper footwear. Would you pray with me? God, I thank you that you're so patient with us. God, I thank you that you're a good God, that you know us, that you pursue us. God, this world can be so incredibly uncertain, unstable. God, it's so easy to slip slide, and it's so easy to walk out into life in spiritual warfare wearing flip-flops or barefooted, and God, we just get caught up and we can't stand. And God, you wake us up and make us realize, wow, there's a better way to live. There's a better way to do life. There's a better way to love. There's a better way. God, I pray for those here today who've never really truly surrendered their life to you and received the free gift of life. They've never really personalized and internalized the gospel. God, may today be the day that they do that. And God, I ask you to give them the power and the strength to stand in a few moments and to make their way down front and to trust in you and to receive this new life, this new path that only you can give. God, others here know you. They're on that path. They're following you. They're simply looking for a church where they can belong as a family or a couple or a student or a young professional. And they say, hey, I want to join second. I want to be a part of this team right now. God, may they stand and come down front as well. We give you this time of invitation. We ask that you would lead in Christ's name. Right now, our band